We'll call this meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for being here. A little late on the candy, Brock. Thank you, though. Okay. I would ask for a motion approving the agenda with the HR addendum.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor say yes. All
Yes.
opposed say no. Thank you. We have a wonderful guest presentation tonight. That's very exciting. Linda Davis, are you going to kind of start things off for us?
Actually, I'm not speaking tonight. I am very excited that my PTA presidents and my past president is here, along with Mary Schultz, who is our state PTA president. And Mary will start with the presentation.
Thank you for letting us come. This is an exciting award. PTA has a rich legacy of advocating, supporting, promoting, and celebrating education, child welfare, and family engagement. You may not know, but during World War I and World War II, PTA kept the schools open. And some of the initiatives that PTA has advocated for are seatbelts in cars, the juvenile justice system, the polio vaccine, a hot lunch program in our schools, and recently PTA advocated for the reauthorization of the ESEA and the Every Child Achieves Act, and they wrote the family engagement piece of that legislation. National PTA School of Excellence is a recognition program that supports and celebrates partnerships between PTAs and schools, families and schools, to enrich the educational experience and overall well-being for all students. As a National PTA School of Excellence, families feel welcomed and empowered to support students' success, and PTA is a key partner for continuous school improvement. The path to excellence starts with a joint commitment of PTA and school leaders to work together to achieve PTA's national standards for family-school partnerships. And today, on September 22nd, 2015, whereas the National PTA Association, Parent-Teacher Association, was founded February 17th, 1897 by Alice McClellan and Phoebe Epperson Hurst, and whereas PTA's national standards for family school partnerships were developed to reflect the most recent research about how parents, schools, and communities can work together to support student success, and whereas research shows that students with engaged parents are more likely to earn higher grades and pass their classes, attend school regularly, have better social skills, stay enrolled in school, and go on to post-secondary education. And whereas PTA is keenly aware of the importance of the family-school partnership in children reaching their full potential, and whereas expanded and enhanced family engagement in schools across the country helps parents build positive relationships with school staff, connect with other families in the school environment, and enrich the educational experience and overall well-being for all students. And whereas family-school connections are fostered by focusing on issues that are important to both schools and families. Now, I therefore, Mary Schultz, President of the North Dakota State PTA, do hereby congratulate Discovery Middle School, stand up ladies, in Fargo, North Dakota as a National PTA School of Excellence that has succeeded in welcoming and empowering families in our communities to support student success while continuing to work for school improvement. And the past president, Amy Schurseth, is the gal that got this program started for Discovery, and so we're happy that we can pass this along to them.
I just was excited. I went to the Austin training 2 years ago. Mary initiated me to go, and it was just an amazing experience just to see, coming from North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, I did not know how huge the PTA was and how politically exciting and just engaging these parents and teachers and educators were from all over the nation. And I was so excited, and coming from the hospitality business, that's my husband's background, my background, I love the idea of just using surveys and getting information. What do the people really think? What do the educators really think? And we can use that information for the betterment of our schools, even if we don't win the $2,000, which we didn't. But I just figured the information that we would get from those surveys would be great. So it was worth a shot. So it was fun.
I'm Christy Ulrich, and this is Jamie Pollard. We're co-presidents of Discovery Middle School this year. And just earlier today, Satya Nadella, he's the CEO of Microsoft, he stated, "The culture of a place is what defines the pursuit of excellence." And on behalf of the students, staff, teachers, and the PTA board, we are very grateful and proud that we have received this National PTA School of Excellence Award, and we look forward as PTA presidents to continue with this excellence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations. The fact that you're doing work on that level, I mean, we're so, the school is lucky to have you, and the district is lucky to have your efforts. So congratulations for all your hard work, and thank you so much. Anybody have any questions or comments for our guests? Terrific. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for coming and representing the state PTA to present that award. That was wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. At this point, I don't believe we have anyone else signed up to speak from the audience, so we'll go on with our agenda. I will note that shortly I'll be turning the gavel over to Paul because I have a work commitment that I need to slip out for a while. And if you're still at it, I'll be back. We'll be running late. Okay, very good. We did, yep. So, FEA reports, David.
Hello.
Welcome.
The 2015 State ESP Conference is going to be held this weekend in Bismarck. This is the opportunity for the support professionals from across the state to meet, learn, and share together. A couple of the topics will be stress relief strategies, benefits of membership, leadership opportunities, and it's just a great time for all the ESPs across the state to get together and share what they're doing. And also the instructional conference for the North Dakota United will be again October 22nd and 23rd. This year they're doing it at 2 sites, so there'll be a conference in Mandan, those 2 dates, as well in West Fargo. So they're trying to kind of split dates or split towns to try to get more people to attend, and we'll see what happens there. And the couple topics for that are resources for the Common Core, organizing, and some anti-bullying topics. So just to name a few, so that's what's coming up for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for David? Thanks for coming and sharing that. Next, we have on the staff reports, one of my favorite things in the year, the co-curricular activities report. So, Mr. Olson.
First of all, thank you for having us here. It's a pleasure to come out tonight and talk about some of the great things we have going on in activities. If you've noticed, Denise isn't here today. Sarah Lichtblau has agreed to come. Before I turn it over to Sarah, she has some obligations tonight, but Denise is in Washington, D.C. right now, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but she is the president-elect of the National Association of Music Educators, which is a huge national organization, and she's there at meetings, and she will be the national president from 2016 to 2018, so kudos to Denise. That's a big deal. And now I'll turn it over to Sarah to highlight some of the fine arts activities.
Well, thank you. I teach at Fargo South. I teach choir there, so thank you for having me here. These are just some of the highlights of the 2014-15 school year. This is our 12th year of being named one of the best communities for music education. There are 388 total. This award is based on participation rates, budget dedicated to music, minutes of instruction per week, length of class, number of music educators in the district, and professional development opportunities. Two of our music teachers were featured on regional or national news. John Severson, jazz band director at South, he retired, but was featured on the national Fox News My America show about his very successful jazz program and his retirement. Justin DePaulis Metz is an Ed Clap music teacher. He was featured on Minnesota Public Radio about how his drum circle brings the population at school together. Some community connections. The FM Symphony offers vouchers for our students to attend the symphony concerts for free. Our theater students attend NDSU Drama Days. 50 students are given tickets to the Metropolitan Opera live in HD showings at Century 10 Theater 4 times a year, provided by the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. All 1st through 6th grade students continue to attend the Learning Bake presentations. 1st grade is the MSUM Poco Fuego Steel Drum Band. 2nd grade is the Ukrainian presentation. 3rd grade, Concordia Percussion Ensemble. 4th grade, FM Symphony at NDSU. 5th grade, FM Kicks Jazz Band. And 6th grade is a Russian presentation. The South High Bella Ursovoci Vocal Ensemble, we auditioned and were accepted to perform at the North Dakota Music Educators Conference in March in Bismarck, and that was a wonderful opportunity, so we thank you for that. 7 of the 8 North Dakota students who auditioned and were accepted into the All National Honors Ensembles Choir were from North High, and their teacher is Shelley Zietz. From Denise and from all of us on the music staff, we just would like to express our gratitude to the board to be able to continue to offer an exceptional music program to students in our district. As we open new schools, we are also thankful that those music teachers can start the year with the equipment and supplies they need to teach to the level of other existing school music programs. Thank you. If you have any questions, I can write those down and Denise can get back to you, or if I can answer them, I would. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much. And I'll just tell you that, speaking with my symphony hat on, we're so pleased to have, the ties with the school district that we do when we bring our artists in. But the one thing that I always do when we pick up the guest artists at the airport and talk about our community, and I go into detail about the level of music education that we have here, and they just can't believe it. I mean, symphonies around the country are stepping in when the schools have kind of cut music, so it's fantastic. So thank you for your good work. Great. And Todd, you're going to tell us the other good news.
I'm going to highlight some things from, this past school year. As I was thinking about how to summarize the year, I came up with the 3 Ps. First of all, participation. I think you have a lot of participation information in your packet. Our participation across the district in a variety of activities remains very strong. My second P was policy. We had an incredible amount of policy that was either new policy or updated policy that impacted our activities program throughout this year. And my third one was plan, as in the strategic plan. Next year, I will be in front of you giving this report, and it won't just be about how many kids did what. We're going to implement some satisfaction surveys. We're going to put together an honor roll of, Anne Marie's communications group does a great job of putting things out that our kids and our staff members achieve. We're going to put it all together in one spot at the end of the year, and I think there will be some wow factor to hear all the great things that happened in our programs this year. We're going to talk about how our GPAs and attendance of kids who are in activities compared to the population in general. And our 4th indicator is going to be North Dakota Activities Association Team Scholar Awards. Our sports teams, our musical groups, anybody who participates in a sanctioned activity by the High School Activities Association has the opportunity to become a team scholar if your group or team has a 3.2 GPA or better during the course of whatever is defined as their season. So those are some of the things we've been talking about. I also put some information in your packets about our cooperative sponsorships. We did a little bit of analysis in those on who are our participants in the various co-ops, and then secondly, what the structure is that the High School Activities Association looks at with our partner schools. And lastly, just a couple items of note that this past Wednesday we had our Coaches Professional Development Night, and We had about 150, 200 coaches there. We do our longevity awards. We honor our state coaches of the year. We honor coaches that were nominated for national awards. And before and after that, we had a little bit of CPR certification and recertification. We had 103 coaches come in to become CPR certified last Wednesday night. I was pretty proud of those numbers in that hot gym, that many people came early or stayed late to take care of that. And lastly, if you don't think school has gotten underway, Thursday we start our first postseason tournament in town. We're hosting East Region Tennis, and that's hard for me to believe we're there already. That's all I have. I'd be willing to take any questions.
Jennifer, and then Rebecca.
So sorry. I have a question on page 2. The participation rates from 2013 and 14 compared to 14 and 15. And I'm just curious if you could speak to the percentages at Ben, Carl, Ben, and Discovery.
I think we've tightened up a little bit in what we're defining as an activity. You know, maybe going beyond some of the normal things that count during a school day that were once counted as an activity participation. Maybe receiving help with your homework instead of being a club activity and counting that as a co-curricular. It's just receiving help with your homework. Good things, but we've redefined some of the categories. I think accounts for a good deal of that.
Rebecca, did you have?
I do. Okay, let's see, I did have the question basically that Jennifer had, so that got answered. I was wondering in regard to Fargo South, in terms of the lower involvement of activities there, what kind of comparison to the 2 other schools, what challenges that provides to the district, and how we deal with some of those, if you see challenges.
I see some challenges. I think the programs at South are starting to fill in. I think we're still getting some of the, you know, whenever there's a divide, there are slots that go unfilled. I think we're starting to see those fill in over time. I'm encouraged by some of the things I'm seeing there in their participation numbers in a variety of activities.
Okay, the other question I had, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before in regard to hockey. So let's see, in regard to girls hockey, do you know if we actually have girls as young as 7th grade in that co-op? It's the Shanley-Sullivan co-op, because it says that it could start as young as 7th grade, and I'm just wondering about that, and especially once they get into competition, you know, with kids that are obviously much older.
Right. When you form a co-op, you have 2 choices. Either you do a 7-12 co-op or a 9-12 co-op. Occasionally, there is an 8th grade athlete who is able to compete at that level, and that opens the door for that participation. We don't necessarily like for that to happen. We'd like to keep it 9 through 12, but there have been cases where the athlete was able to compete at that level, and there is no 8-12 co-op. It's either 7-12 or 9-12.
And then I think my last question, or probably more of a comment, is in regard to the South Shanley Co-op, which I know I've discussed with you a little bit before. This last season, there were 11 students from Fargo Public Schools on that roster and 29 from our co-op. And just one of the areas that I would hope that we look at as you continue to analyze how our co-op structure works is this type of a thing where we have a program that is a Fargo Public Schools program with the idea of first to serve the students that go to Fargo Public Schools. And it's great that we're offering opportunities to kids that, you know, go outside of the public school system to participate. But I think it's interesting when we end up in a situation like we did at South, where it's really not so much a Fargo Public Schools team, it's more of a private team. And so I just encourage us to take a look at that and make sure that we're not limiting opportunities for Fargo Public Schools kids by the co-ops that we take on. And I guess that's my main comment. Thank you.
We will continue to monitor that.
Other questions? Robin?
So I noticed the same thing as Rebecca did on I didn't see it as the lower involvement, percentage of involvement in South High, but the high, North High involvement. Do you attribute that to it's not that much smaller, the smaller school size or a couple champions within North High that really boost up those percentages? Of course, there's Junior Classic League and DECA that are much bigger at North. Is there one that weighs heavier than the other?
I think it's a combination of the two. Oftentimes, it's we call them the Pied Piper that
Right.
attracts big numbers in our staff. But I also think North High has just a very rich tradition of kids getting involved in clubs and those types of things.
Okay.
Their participation has been high since I came to this district.
Okay, thank you.
One other question. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm taking off on Jennifer's question, which I'm sure anybody looking at this would wonder, well, is this a trend or why are the numbers looking to appear? And Todd, you alluded to why the numbers, I interpreted it that there's a tighter measure of what you call activities. But when I look through the lists, I'm curious, how does somebody like fitting into a study hall or doing homework fit into like sports or band or orchestra or drama or these specific categories? How would they get categorized as activities if they were doing things of that nature? And then I have a second question.
I think within the last strategic plan for the district, there was such a push to get high participation percentage that there were things that were created maybe to put kids in so you can count them as activities that we probably traditionally wouldn't necessarily call an activity.
And my second question is more for my own learning. Recently, when we had parents speaking to the board, and this was a knowledge base I don't personally have, but somebody talked about the investment families have to make to participate in activities. And I've never really seen or learned much about what does it cost from the family side and where are the costs and how much are they and how does that trend line go and so on. It was just interesting to me to hear that person's comment about their investment for one child in just one particular sport. And then, of course, if you extrapolate it, it's something I wouldn't mind learning about, I guess, at some point.
Our fees are $50 for a high school activity. For most of us, I had a couple children that were very active in athletics, and school sports was by far the least expensive thing that we did during a 12-month period.
So if I might, if somebody says they had to write a $500 check.
I can clarify that.
Yeah, that's what I was
It was $190. It included purchasing a yearbook, purchasing other optional items. The actual cost for participation in the activity was nothing near that. So it was not 500. I did check on it. It was 190.
And I'll finish. I think there's absolutely no doubt that extracurricular and co-curricular and activities are good for our students. And the more engaged students are in activities and in life, the more successful they are. So I commend everybody for everything they do for all of our kids every day in that capacity.
Dave?
Todd, I'm kind of confused by something on this sheet. Looking at the boys hockey participation for Fargo South, South Shanley, Oak Grove, it said total participants 40, FPS 11, co-op 8. All the others, FPS and co-op, seem to add up pretty closely to total participants. Why are those numbers wrong?
The 11 I'm looking at further down. I think there was a line added.
This is right about in the middle is where I'm looking.
Okay, we have boys hockey in white, Fargo South Shanley Co-op. Total participants 40, 11 and 19.
Mine
We're
says
missing
11 and
some.
8.
Should, the line above that says 11 and 8. So if we add those together,
Oh, we're supposed to add them up?
well, it wasn't presented very well.
Okay,
I
that makes
apologize.
sense. Thank you.
Rebecca?
To build on John's comment, a question that I have in regard to, say, activity fees, does the district have a policy or is there a procedure if there's a family that feels as if they can't afford to pay the activity fee? Do we have an option for that?
Yes, we do. We have free and reduced activity fees too. We have a significant number of students that do not pay the participation fee because of their economic circumstances.
So it would be fair to say, Todd, that no one is denied an opportunity to be in the extracurricular, the co-curricular due to financial reasons.
No one at all.
Any other questions or comments? Before I turn it over to Dr. Schatz for a comment, I want to say, Todd, I think you mentioned something that particularly struck home with me that I remember from the past years, and that is the concept of the Pied Piper who brings people into an activity. And I guess, just speaking as one person, I would say anything you can do to encourage those Pied Pipers really pays dividends, because you see people like David Volk and others who can make an organization like Junior Classical League, which many people would say, what is that? And yet he's quite obviously able to make it into one of the more exciting areas that people talk about for years after they leave our district. So, for what it's worth, anything you can do to think of ways, and I would say this for Denise as well, because I know she handles a certain area of the co-curricular. You need to find ways to get those people to really recruit and make it worthwhile, and they don't survive on their own. And so you need a good Pied Piper. And with that, any other questions, or Dr. Schatz?
I just had a real quick comment that I wanted to make about South, and that is, I had a unique opportunity on Friday to go over to their pep rally. They had homecoming last week. And my interest in going over there was twofold. First of all, one of my friends was put in the Hall of Fame, and so that means I'm getting older now that people that I went to school with are going into the Hall of Fame. But also, I wanted to just see their pep rally and see how that looked. And I walked away incredibly impressed with what I saw. I was part of the split, being coming to town to open Davies, and it was a tumultuous time. It was a difficult time, and usually the school that has to be the school that's split struggles more than the new school, because the new school is there's a lot of energy that goes into that. And I saw just a wonderful student body that was very cohesive. The spirit was incredible. The appropriateness of everything going on was great. The staff was all at the pep rally. I sat back and I looked at it and I said, you know what, they've arrived. They've arrived into their new environment, their new culture, their new who they're going to be after splitting and all the things that went on. And so I told that to Dr. Birch, and he has been working hard on school climate, culture, those types of things to really re-identify who they are. And I think you'll see numbers continue to hopefully improve, and more kids will take advantage of the opportunities we have. But that was a very tumultuous time for that school, and so I just was so pleased when I walked away, and I saw so many good things there. So the environment there is really rich right now, and it is good, and you could just feel it. And so I just wanted to make that comment. And thank you to Todd for all that he does and his department. It's a lot of things going on, and people don't realize all the things that go on and what it takes to make that happen. So thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Any other comments before we move on? I think at this point we get to approve our consent agenda, if I remember correctly. And so, Robin, you're ready with a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the HR addendum.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jim. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. I don't think we actually vote on that, do we? No. We do vote on that. Well, do we have to take a roll call? Okay, all in favor, you'd think I'd know this after 15 years. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as prepared and modified, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed can say no. Well, the consent agenda has been approved, and we're now ready to move into our business segment. And the first item under our business segment, a rather important one, is our budget final approval. You'll notice memo number 52, and I know that Jim and Brock, I think, are both prepared on this. Jim, are you going to lead off? Take it from there.
Thanks, Paul. As Paul indicated, this is our second time looking at our budget, and it'll be our final approval based upon our actions tonight. It will go forward to the county for certification, and it'll be in Brock's computer for ongoing monitoring and maintenance. Just a couple of global highlights, and then if Brock has anything to add, he will, or if you have any questions, we'll certainly try to address them. There really have been no significant changes to any areas of the budgets from when we gave preliminary approval, with an exception to the building fund, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But DPI, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that they would like to have us reclassify or recode certain revenue lines. So you'll notice that in several of our budget areas, with the exception of nutritional services, nothing really changed in the preliminary budget numbers, but we've had to move some line items as per new direction from DPI. And that's referenced as the tax revenue coding changes required by DPI in each of the areas. Again, just to hit on the special assessment fund, we expect an ending fund balance of about $185,000 at the close of this school year, and we are still waiting for the completed special assessment certification from Ed Clapp Elementary. We anticipate that still this fall. And at that point in time, we'll hopefully have the dollars to fully pay that off and make a pretty good inroad on the outstanding special assessments for the Blue Stem facility as well. On the building fund, that's the one area that there was some changes to. Actually, I shouldn't call them changes. They're just now getting coded in for the anticipation of what's going to occur this year. There has been an increase of approximately $5.6 million in that budget area, and that's based on $4.4 million of what we think the fully bonded price for the Eagle project will be, and the proceeds, net proceeds of the projected sale of the warehouse building at 1.2. So expenditures were also adjusted based upon the estimates on the Eagles and the preliminary estimates thus far on the warehouse. You can almost count on the fact that sometime through this calendar year, Brock in planning will be back with a request for a budget adjustment as we actually finalize the cost of those projects, and in particular the warehouse project that I suspect will be coming front and center in front of us within the next probably 30 to 60 days. Special levy fund is the other part of what used to be called our building fund. Again, no changes to that. Nutritional service fund, no changes to that from what we originally approved. And the general fund is unchanged with the exception again of object codes that are being required by DPI. There's also been some internal line adjustments based on departmental needs, but again, no increase in total expenditures anticipated, just a fine-tuning of what line of the budget they actually ought to be in. With that, I'll turn it over to Brock if he has any other comments or overviews, and we'll certainly open it up to questions.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't have anything additional, just I'll try to answer questions if you have them.
Anyone from the board have questions at this point? Jennifer?
Okay, so my question has to do with the general fund, first of all, and it kind of actually just, I'm curious why we don't see more line items like activities, for example, and where would I find them? Are they bunched into another category?
Members of the board, Jennifer, 2 years ago, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 2 years ago, the school board decided that we would not present a separate budget for activities. And that line, if you go to the general fund budget, the dollars for activities are located in the 920 budget code, which is fund transfers. And we used to, so of that 7.8 million or 7.6 million, that's total budget transfers, embedded in there is the amount that the district spends specifically on activities. We used to present a separate activities budget, and the reason we stopped doing that was the determination was made that activities, much like any other programmatic area, is just one more general fund item. So why should they have a separate standalone budget versus the other places where things are just embedded? And so if you would like to see that, we certainly can share with you, working with Todd, we could share with you the activities budget. Joy Rederath in the accounting department and Todd work very close at developing that budget. They then bring me the number and say, here's what we think we would need in general fund dollars to offset that. But it's embedded in that inter-fund transfer, which is inter-fund really means within the district and what do we fund internally.
Jennifer, I'm going to follow up on that for a second because I don't remember exactly when, that probably we as a board did not make that decision. That was probably a cabinet level decision as to how to present that, or did the board make that decision? Because when you say, gosh, it's just one area, why would it get individual breakdown? I mean, we have a breakdown for snow removal, for everything else, you know. I would think it's probably a bit of a sensitive number, but it's a $10 million number and probably, I think, or 7 million, something like that. You know, going forward, it would seem like an appropriate thing to bring out.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm open to that direction. This, I believe it was 2 years ago, through planning, as we were presenting budgets, we had this discussion, we brought it to the board, we had vetted it at board meetings about what do you want to see, and at that time it was specifically decided that we would not do a separate budget, much like we no longer do a separate Trollwood budget. It was during that same conversation. Trollwood is an interfund transfer, activities are an interfund transfer. The planning committee or the board chose that they no longer needed to see the itemized line-by-line breakdown of those two areas. If that's something, well, I don't want to speak for Jim. I'm open to that discussion. It would probably be a planning discussion because that's who I worked through with the budget piece, but I will take my direction accordingly.
Other questions, comments? Jim?
I don't have a question, but I am going to make a motion that we approve the special assessment fund, building fund, special levy fund, nutrition service fund, and general fund budgets for 2015-16, and instruct the administration to submit the appropriate budgets to the county auditor for certification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor, and we can have further discussion. So, John.
Just for the sake of clarity, I will be calling, or I am calling when we get to it for a division of the question. And while I have the mic, Brock, and a question about the warehouse project, we have it in this levy, the building fund, as 1.2 million, but some of us have been approached by at least one city commissioner saying that the district is asking for substantially more than that. Will that number change, or are we asking for more than that? Because I heard, substantially more is the conversation I was approached with.
Thanks, John. And I know that a number of people have answers to this, and let's go to Jim first and then Dr. Schatz.
The 1.2 million is a budget adjustment in our budget because we anticipate that will be dollars that we'll be expending. Clearly, we believe the buyout for the city will be significantly more than that in total. But on top of that, depending upon what we decide to do, in particular with our print shop and large machinery shop, for lack of a better name, the space we rent at Kreider, if we decide to consolidate, it's estimated that that will probably cost us about an additional 1.2 million above and beyond what we'll be getting from the city. So the 1.2 million is not the anticipated number we're getting on the buyout.
John, go ahead and answer.
If I might, Mr. Chair, so what you're saying here is that will be the net change to our budget after a wash of however much we get for the purchase value and reinvestment back into a replacement structure?
Yeah, it's the anticipated amount. We certainly don't have a final project yet, but we want a budget placeholder for that, which is what we've done in this particular line item.
John, any further on that? Okay, then Dr. Schatz, anything to add?
I will just say that that one particular individual that you referred to, I had met with, and there were several deficiencies in the understanding of what was going on. Those have been corrected. I want to go on the record as saying that the district has never asked for anything, but has participated in a process to address the flood wall issue. And that has all been done through, not the city, but with the Water Diversion Board. And so the actual offer does not come from the city itself. And so we need to make sure that we're very clear on that. Any other specific details on that at this time would be premature because that's still in conversation. And so we are hoping, like Jim said, to bring that to some kind of resolution here soon. And at that time, Brock, working with planning and with you as the rest of the board, can talk about what other types of long-term investments you'd like to make to consolidate and possibly create better efficiencies within what we do in our warehouse with the storage of larger equipment and those types of things. So I just want you to know that that has been cleared up, and we are looking forward to a very positive report here soon, and the board will be fully vetted at that time.
Thank you, Dr. Schatz, for that. Any other comments on this? Any other comments, or I will entertain John's request for division of the question. Jennifer?
Can you just quickly remind me, I think you may have mentioned this last time we reviewed the budget, but under nutrition services, a deficit budget of 492, 296, is that just due to the opening of EdClap or expenditures of equipment that wasn't in the other, budget, first budget?
Yeah, members of the board, Jennifer, not only opening of EdClap, but planned expenditures and equipment for the Operations Center project, also planned expenditures for Eagles, which will happen probably late spring of next year. So it is a combination of planning for those capital projects.
Any further questions? Any further questions? John, did you have something you'd like to bring up with regard to a division of this question?
No, Mr. Chair, except that I request it.
Okay, you may have to help me, Anne Marie. Does that require a vote on the division?
No.
So it's just an automatic? Okay, so that at this point, we will then be taking each of the funds individually and determining whether or not the board has given its final approval to those budgets as prepared. If there are no other further questions, we'll start that process. Okay, so we have a motion. I don't think we need a fresh motion, do we? We have our regular continuing motion, and that's just been divided. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look, first of all, at the Special Assessments Fund, and that requires either an approval or a no approval from the board. So at this point, I would ask all those in favor.
Roll call, please.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's do it with a roll call. At this point, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote on the first fund, Special Assessments.
Special assessment, Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson. Yes. Myers.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
No.
And that passes?
8-1.
Okay. That passed probably 7-1.
7-1, excuse me.
The next item will be Building Fund, and once again, I won't ask for a voice vote. I'll ask for a roll call, Anne Marie, whenever you're ready on the Building Fund approval.
And Paul, I'll have you vote last on that. I apologize, I had that
It's
flipped.
okay, I could handle that.
Thank you. Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson. Yes. Nelson.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes, and that passes as well. So we now have the Special Assessments Fund approved, the Building Fund approved. We're going to move to number 3, the Special Levy Fund. And Anne Marie, whenever you're ready, we'll take a roll call vote on approving or not approving the Special Levy Fund.
Johnson,
Yes.
Knutson,
yes. Nelson,
yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Benson,
No.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes. That also passed. So we now have 3 of the items that have passed. We're going to move on to the nutrition services budget. And Anne Marie, I'd ask for the roll call vote on that, please.
Knutson, yes. Nelson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes. And the nutrition services budget also has passed. We're now moving to the general fund budget. And we're going to look for a roll call vote on that, Anne Marie.
Nelson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Strand,
No.
Benson,
No.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Mike? Mike, please.
And so the general portion fund, the general fund portion of tonight's motion has also passed. And unless there are any other further questions or comments, we're going to move on from that. Seeing none, we'll take the next spot in our agenda, which is the bond replenishment resolution, and a very exciting topic. Jim, I'm going to turn that over to you and take it wherever you'd like.
I sure will. As you all know, we're busy putting a pretty significant addition on to the Eagles Center to turn it into Eagles Elementary. And I understand they got most of the steel structure up today and just about all the concrete poured now. So it looks like we're on schedule.
I drove by it. It looks fantastic.
But of course, that also means we're spending money because nobody does this work for free. Ultimately, we will be bonding for this project, and what we would like to have the ability to do is basically use the bond proceeds to not only pay the remaining balance for the work that has to get done, but also to go back in time and cover the expenditures we've already made, so we can bond for the full cost of the project. Based upon recommendation from Bond Council, they believe we have to have a resolution relating to that reimbursement. So in fact, when we issue the bonds, we can bond for the entire amount that we choose to and reimburse for any previously expended funds that the district used. So with that, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the resolution relating to the issuance of bonds and the reimbursement of certain expenditures for Eagle Elementary.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? Robin?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve that resolution relating to the issuance of bond and reimbursement. And Robin, a question?
I have a question, Jim. So, forgive me if I forget how we've done this in the past. The issuance would be approximately 10 million. So, in the past, have we not said up to 10 million for the bonding, or what is the common practice?
When and if we get to the actual issuing of a bond amount, it will be up to a certain threshold ceiling. For the purposes of this resolution, which is just to fall in sync with IRS rules, we just need to give an approximation of what the total bond issuance might end up being. And right now, that's still in the $10 million ballpark.
So after the 60-day protest period, then the next motion would follow up with an up to?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Good question, Robin. Anything else on this particular motion? Anything else? And if not, then Anne Marie, we're ready for a roll call vote on this particular resolution.
Nelson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. This resolution has passed.
Mike, please.
This motion is passed, and thank you, Jim, for reporting on all of that and for covering the details. We're now ready to take a look at our next item of business, zooming right along here, which would be the GPs 4, 5, 9, and 10. Linda, of course, is not here to handle that, so I'm just going to point out that we sent those surveys out, and almost everyone replied to those surveys, but not everyone did, apparently. And for the most part, we were found to be substantially in compliance with the commitments that we make. And I guess I would just say, if anyone would like to add to anything that's already been indicated in the paperwork, now would be your time to do so, or to further clarify your comments in any way. Anyone have anything to say with regard to these GPs? One more time, anyone have anything to say? And if not, I believe then we don't need to take a formal vote on that, we just accept this. We do have to take a vote on it? Okay, well then let's take a vote. Anne Marie, if you'd like to call the,
I move that we accept the GP 4, 5, 9, and 10 monitoring documents.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we accept the GP 4, 5, 9, and 10 monitoring documents. And Anne Marie, I think we're ready for, if there are no other questions, and there don't appear to be, if there are no other questions, Anne Marie, we're ready for the roll call.
Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. And so the monitoring documents, GP 4, 5, 9, and 10, have been approved and accepted by the board. And I know that there were some specific comments in there, which I'm sure our staff and cabinet will be looking at with regard to anything that needs to be done differently going forward. And boy, we're just zooming along here. I don't see the need for any kind of a break. Don't see anyone sweating too badly. So we're going to move on to the board reports, the committee liaison and correspondence reports. And at this point, I will just ask, I guess we go around the table at this point, don't we? Jim, you've got your mouth full. Go ahead, take it.
Thanks. Planning will be meeting, I believe it's October 2nd. That's our regular scheduled meeting will be the first Friday of every month at 7:30. And the agenda will be probably coming out early next week for everybody to have a sneak peek at. And you're certainly all welcome to come to that planning committee meeting, whether you're on the planning committee or not. The SEEC board is meeting tomorrow night in Castleton. We've got a pretty full agenda. We're going to be kind of reviewing the bylaws of the organization and seeing if anybody has any suggested changes to those, as well as really working through some of the preliminary transition work that's being done to prepare the SEEC to become a freestanding entity and not have to rely on Fargo Public Schools for its financial management systems. And luckily for the SEEC, we have some pretty talented people here at Fargo Public Schools that have been tapped as a consultant to help them figure out how to transition away from Fargo Public Schools. And I'm sure Jackie is helping them in that shepherding process to the best of her abilities. I think that's it for now.
Thanks, Jim. John?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the Native American Commission, you may have noticed, is advancing a resolution to the City Commission that will call for or ask and request that residents and citizens of Fargo and official entities in Fargo be directed or advised by the city to not celebrate Columbus Day, but rather Indigenous Peoples Day. We've had several meetings. We've had a lot of I've had, I have to say, an immense learning involvement here when I hear from all these representatives of the various tribes and their passionate interpretation of history relative to how we as a culture generally know history to be with respect to Columbus and Columbus Day. And at first I was not for sure there in a sense that this is a slam dunk at all. But I do acknowledge that I've just been moved by the presentation of information to challenge me personally about what what we think Columbus day means, and how people on the other side of part of history look at Columbus Day, when in their perspective it meant genocide, and it meant significant torture, and a list that's just pretty astounding. Part of their call to the community is that we start educating all people as we go forward, which will reach out, I'm certain, to institutions of public instruction, that we start broadening our presentation of those elements of history, and that we enlighten ourselves and each other about the various sides of those historical elements. So this is going before that. We had a special meeting last night. The revised, amended resolution passed. The mayor came and participated in the meeting, and we tweaked it so that we would have more likelihood of success. There's many cities in the country, including Moorhead and including St. Paul and Minneapolis, who have adopted the concept of Indigenous Peoples Day as opposed to Columbus Day. And it's not a formal holiday in North Dakota, but it is a federal holiday. So that passed last night, so you all know. It will be going to the City Commission Monday night, the 28th.
Thank you, John. Rebecca?
Okay, so my board report is that I'll be attending the ice cream social at Clara Barton. That's on Thursday from 6 to 7:30. And I was not able to be at the ribbon cutting for Ed Clapp, but I did get a tour, brought my girls with, and had one of the 5th graders give us a tour, so that was fun. And then the communications committee met yesterday, and you're passing these out here. This is, what you're receiving is I'm calling it a citizen thank you letter right now. And so basically, it was approved yesterday at the communications committee so that people that come to our board meetings and present, sign up and present and give us their contact information, that we'll be able to follow up with them with a thank you note, thanking them for their interest and their participation. And it will come from Linda, but Anne Marie will help us make sure it gets out. So that's for your information. And we started to talk a little bit about the audit that was put out by the National School Public Relations Association. We talked about that for about a half hour. And what we're going to do for our next, as we focus on our next meeting, is we're going to look at the section in that audit that's specific towards board recommendations. So, and we'll just kind of delve into that more at our next meeting. So any of you that aren't on that committee, if you want to send any thoughts or ideas to me, feel free, or give me a call so that we can take that into consideration. And we're just going to get started. There's obviously a lot that we need to take a look at. And Anne Marie shared with us, too, some of what the district is looking at on the administrative level. In regard to the liaison school engagements, I just want to clarify, there are 2 this year that we as board members will all be asked to participate. So for each of our liaison schools, 1 at each school. And I believe I have this correct, that the first engagement report will be at the last meeting in February. Is that what I have? I wrote February, but that's not right, is it?
November.
November, okay. The last meeting in November. And then the second one, is it at the second meeting in April, Anne Marie? Is that what you have? Okay. And where last year we focused on meeting with the strategists, at least lots of us did, this year it's make your contacts and kind of explore and think about the information that you'd like to learn about at the schools that you are assigned to, and the persons that you feel that will be the most valuable to you to gain the information and the learning that you want to experience. And then the next meeting for that committee is Monday, October 12th. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Jennifer, anything to add here?
So I attended the ribbon cutting at EdClap. It was nice to celebrate the collaboration. So, and there was a health committee meeting this afternoon, right before the board meeting, and there will be HSA educational meetings, again, held at the end of October, and an email going out to employees inviting them to attend. So it's a big change, a big opportunity for some folks. So there was some held in the spring. Now there will be a couple more in the fall.
Bob, do you want to give anything now, or do you want to wait until a little bit later?
Nothing at this time.
Nothing to add? Okay. Brittany?
Nothing at this time.
Very good. Brock, you've done your job. Dave?
Nothing at this time.
Robin?
Oh, okay, I've been busy. Scheduled with all my PTA meetings over the next 2 months. Also joined Carl Ben Allison's PTA, since I can do that now. I will be at the ice cream social on Thursday as well. As most of you know, I traveled to Bismarck and visited the interim education committee meetings. A couple of the main topics that there were hearings on were standards and assessments, as well as CTE programs. And then there was a gentleman today that spoke about our country's achievement and how we rank in the world and how he has this great plan to fix that. So I'll share that PowerPoint with you guys, but a lot of it made sense. Anyway, I'll stop at that. I did a lot of visiting on the side and talked about some of the items that we wanted to focus on as a result of our GAC meeting, our Governmental Affairs meeting. There was a lot of conversation about special ed and ELL in some of these hearings, so I didn't know exactly what to ask from individuals on that, so I didn't bring it up. Under the impression that real-time payments is going to be a non-starter. Since apparently some of the enrollments growth is leveling off in the western part of the state. I was told by one of our district senators that sit on that committee that he doubts that has any legs. There was not a interim study committee assigned for that. We kind of thought there was, but confirmed that there wasn't. So let me know if you know otherwise. Also talked about, got a list here. Kyle Davison said he would talk to us about changing the age and the grades for the alternative high school situation. Since it's at 16 right now, he wanted some background on that, and I do as well. The next interim meeting will be scheduled sometime in November, and so look for dates on that. And overall, that's just kind of a general overview of what we did. As far as our local GAC meetings, we had some conflicts on the 4th or the 3rd Thursday of the month at 7:30 a.m. So when I polled the individual members for what would work better for them, they felt that Tuesdays would work, which would set us in the the second Tuesday of the month at 7:30. And I believe I heard from everybody, so unless I hear any change right now, we will be moving the currently scheduled GAC meeting from October 15th to October 13th, from Thursday to Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. Will you pass that along to Jolynn, please, Brock? Okay, and then my last item is I was asked to, Dr. Schatz is required to assign a school board member to the Early Childhood Education Council for the city, and I have agreed to be on that panel. We'll be meeting October 1st in the evening. That's it.
Thank you, Robin. Dinah?
Okay, I was also at the EdClap ribbon cutting. I also attended the Most Likely to Succeed movie that was at the Fargo Theater. Last week was attended mostly by educators. Was definitely an interesting conversation. I'm sorry I had to leave a little early, so I didn't catch Dr. Schatz. But Dr. Flowers' response afterwards basically was that so just for those of you who weren't there, the gist of the movie was about schools that are project-based learning, and rather than it being part of the curriculum, everything is project-based learning, and it focused very much on a school in San Diego called High Tech High, is that right? That's what it was called. And So Dr. Flowers basically said, you know, it's good to see something like this because we as districts, and he talked about all three districts and the cooperatives that are going on between the three districts, are doing project-based learning and have been for a while. And it validates the fact that, you know, we're doing the right thing, but we are not high-tech high, and maybe that, and we don't need to be high-tech high, that's not necessarily, but the fact that we are progressing and understanding the needs, the changing needs of education and working differently. So I thought it was a very interesting discussion. It's a good movie for conversation, and I think maybe it's a good movie for parents and lay people to see, to have some understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about project-based learning. So anyway, it was definitely a good evening. I was out of town, and so I only kind of caught this on the sideline, and so I really don't know how much publicity there was for it. Clearly, there weren't any other board members, and I know we're all busy, but somehow I think when things like this happen, our administration, who maybe knows more details about these things, needs to give us a little more detail so you know, people can understand, and I don't know the specifics of this. So what it is we're being invited to or not invited to, so that people can make a better decision about whether it's something they're interested in attending. We also I went to the historic Hawthorne tour this weekend of the houses, and you're not interested in the houses, but the vocational center was also open for tours that day. And, you know, a lot of our educationally challenged students end up after 21 at this vocational center to work for their livelihood. And I've always known about it, known it was a good thing, but I've never toured it before. And it was very, very impressive. The executive director gave us a private tour, and it's quite amazing to see what actually goes on there, the degree of jobs that these adults and kids do. So if you ever have the opportunity, I think it's a worthwhile experience to go and have a tour there. I also want to remind you that the Fargo Public Schools Foundation open house is this Thursday at the Radisson from 5 to 7. It's right before the ice cream social, so I know it's hard. I'm going to be at both, but late for the social. And it's not too late to go to the Fargo Public Schools Foundation event. I also want to remind you that the Getz Mental Wellness Initiative, the Imagine Thriving, is having a fundraiser next Monday. I'm on the board there, so I'm reminding you about it, but also because the focus of their fundraising is to support the mental wellness facilitators in our schools, which we, you know, had a presentation about a few months ago, and it's so important. Their work is really supporting what we do in the schools, so I want to remind you, if you are free and interested and don't have enough information, just ask me. And and one other thing, I'll be at North High at my PTA on Friday.
Thank you, Dinah. That was very good. I know, Dr. Schatz, you've got something to add to that as well.
Well, with the most likely to succeed event, first of all, we didn't organize it. And I was notified about what was going on with this whole thing rather late. And as soon as I had the information to pass on, I did in the board focus. And it was a bit of a frustration on my part with how this whole thing played out. It's one of those things that took off without my knowledge initially, and once I got my arms around it, I tried to do the best I could with that. So, you know, my comments at that event were that I would suggest you read the book rather than see the movie. And I told the producer that directly when I met with him at dinner. I think that the movie has many holes in it with regard to the full story. And the book is much more clear and provides much more insight. And so my recommendation will be that the Education at Works Committee will look at that as a book study with all the administrators first, and then move from there. But there were forces moving that I couldn't stop. And so I am part of a group of people. They asked me to be part of it, and I said, sure. So I did get up on stage and make comments after the panel, and then there was final comments, and so, but it was a positive event, and there was over 500 people there. It was widely promoted by Greg Tavine and the Emerging Prairie Organization, along with the Economic Development Corp. And so we'll see where it goes, but I think it's just like all the conversations we're having right now about 21st century skills, project-based learning, all these things that are, quite frankly, very specifically written in our strategic plan. We are far ahead of most people, and so I feel really good about where we are as a district, and as we are as a consortium, Moorhead, West Fargo, and Fargo. So if anything else comes from that, I will let you know, but that was a train running that I couldn't jump onto right away.
I
Very
just
good,
want to
Donna. Go ahead,
clarify
Donna.
that I didn't mean that the school district organized it or that the school district was behind it. I didn't want anybody to have that impression because I knew that that wasn't the case. I just meant that, and I understand.
I think one of the kernels of comment that you made that is particularly good, though, that's helpful. There are always so many events going on and so many things that perhaps should capture our attention individually as a board member, that anytime anyone, whether they're on the board or part of the cabinet or anybody, wants to add some special emphasis to something to encourage us to attend a particular meeting that's going to be impactful, I know I welcome that because we see so many things that you just I don't know if this is good or not. So we do appreciate, speaking just for myself, but I suspect that was what you meant also, Dinah, is that it's whenever possible, if there's something out there that we should pay particular attention to, please feel free to hit us once or twice over the head, at least me, because you got to do it or I don't pay attention. Thank you. Along with everybody else, I was tickled to be at the Ed Clapp open house and had some comments with Ben Clapp, the son of Ed Clapp, very active in the community for many years as an educator as well as a banker. And it was a treat to be there and see so many people and see the park board so involved and the mayor and other people like that. That was great. I also was going to comment on the Clara Barton Hawthorne Ice Cream Festival coming up this Thursday, but I think not only is there the Ice Cream Festival and the Fargo Public Schools Foundation meeting, which really would be a good thing to attend if you can, because the foundation has just made huge strides in the last couple of years, and like the Pied Piper we talked about before, a lot of that is due to the people up at the top who lead it, and we have a new leader there now who could probably use some support along those lines. So I'm just going to encourage anybody to go to that. But isn't Thursday night also the night for the Davies Cabaret? Is that this Thursday? Yeah. No, I think it's Thursday. Is it Friday?
I have Friday.
Well,
Sorry.
it might very well be Friday, but whenever it is, check your calendars. I know that Dr. Schatz, that was going when you were there, wasn't it? Did they start that? Pretty effective deal, pretty fun?
I would say that all the programs run by our
Yes.
schools are outstanding
Good answer.
and worthy of representation
I
by
threw you a
any board
softball
member.
there, and you hit it right out of the park. Thank you.
Paul, I'd
Yes.
just like to confirm it is Thursday night, the
Okay.
24th at 7:30 PM.
Great, thank you. So lots of things going on Thursday, and hopefully we can all go out there and represent the school board and the school district well at all of those. I'd like to now give you the president's report. I have about a 30-minute president's report. No, I don't actually have any president's report because that was Linda's job. Does anyone, Dr. Schatz, do you have some more things to add at this point?
No, I have nothing further to add.
Well, good. Anybody have anything else to add for the good of this meeting? John?
Mr. Chairman, we all should think of Anne Marie on Sunday, on the 27th. It's her birthday, and she's really special in our lives, so I know we'll all be wishing you the very best, and that's my report.
You know, John, along those lines, next meeting, October 13th, is my birthday.
I already know that, Paul.
I know.
Yours and Rebecca will be in the next meeting announcements, too.
And it's right between Indigenous America Day and Eisenhower's birthday, and it has been for a long time. So I was thinking I'd bring treats or something next week. But anyway, any other comments or additions? If not, I get to pound this little gavel and say that we're adjourned, and then we get to do debriefing, right?
Debriefing before adjournment.
Oh, you see? It's you should all try being up here once in a while because you think you know the order of things, but you don't. Does anyone, we are into debriefing. If anyone has anything, any comments to make or additions or anything like that, we would take them now. Anyone to scold or abuse or do anything? If not, this meeting is adjourned.